Good afternoon and welcome to a very cold and blustery Páirc Uí Chaoimh for two Bon Secours Cork Premier Senior Football Championship quarter-finals. First up on our Irish Examiner live stream is the clash of Valley Rovers and Castlehaven, with the action throwing in at 2 p.m, and then at 4 p.m. it's Duhallow against Clonakilty. John Hayes and Brian Cuthbert are alongside me for the opening game, while John is then staying on with Patrick Mulcahy and Noel O'Leary for our coverage of the second match. But let's get the ball rolling on our first quarter final today. Last week I spoke with the two managers, Paul Holland with Valley Rovers, but first up is Castlehaven's James McCarthy.
Delighted to have James McCarthy joining us all the way from Castlehaven. James, we're going to start maybe back with the county final. How hard was it to lift the lads for a new campaign so quickly afterwards, or was it a help that you didn't have time to be mulling over the defeat?
I suppose the answer is a bit of both. We didn't have time to think about it, I suppose, and I suppose it could have gone downhill for us. All right, but I'm on record as saying that the Monday and Tuesday down here we had a couple of good days. The Monday was a get-together, and the Tuesday we were back training, and we had 40 lads out training on the Tuesday night, which was massive, and I suppose we hadn't time to feel sorry for ourselves, and I suppose the Monday was a great get-together because we were coming out of COVID a small bit at the time, and I suppose for the last 2 years it was from a car to the pitch and back to the car and go away again. There was even after matches there was no get-together, there was nothing, and to try to gel a team together, that's kind of hard. So I think we done our bonding after the county final, and fair play to the players. They gave us everything against Newcestown, which was a right tough game.
Do you look back on that county final with a sense of regret, James?
I suppose you do all the time when you go to a final. You're there to win it. We had our chances. We gave them chances. They took their chances. We didn't take ours. I think it's as simple as that. And you can't do that with a quality team like Nemo. And they were a bit cuter than us on the day, and fair play, they were deserving winners.
Okay, now you've had the perfect bounce back, 3 from 3, but hasn't all been plain sailing in those 3 games?
No, like I said, going to the Newcestown game, they had 3 months to prepare. We had 3 days. We weren't going to use that as an excuse, but we knew Newcestown, from playing them down through the years and being a great club like they are, they gave it everything. There was nothing in that game again. Maybe we could have been up. We were up 8 or 9 points. Other teams would have died. Newcestown came back again, and we came again. The Aero game was, I suppose, one of the most entertaining games for a neutral or a spectator for a long time. It was intense stuff and high scoring. Both sides were copying up chances and taking chances. There was very few wides, but very entertaining. No defensive play. The Ross Carbery game was defensive in tough conditions. Was going to be low scoring, and I think it was just that our players showed great attitude again at the end, just to dig it out, to get the win. The win, it was just kept us winning, and we knew we weren't going to make a semi-final, I'd say, by the scoring averages. So we were kind of Ross were there. They wanted to win. They were fear of relegation, so they had something to fight for, and that's what they did. Look, we're not firing on all cylinders, but I've been at this game long enough. You could play brilliant and lose and be gone out of the championship, but while you're in it, you have a chance to improve, and hopefully on a point-sodden Páirc Uí Chaoimh next weekend we'll be going another step close.
I was having this conversation with a few of your counterparts in the hurling clubs before the final group games. I just want to ask you, how important you think it is to get that seeding to a semi-final? Like, is it all it's cracked up to be?
Last year we were in the semi-final, and you could say it was tough on the Bears playing us in the semi-final because they played in the Wednesday beforehand. But again, it was like us playing in the county final and playing 7 days later. You don't have time to think about it, and the adrenaline kicks in, and you're battle hardened. But if you're waiting for a game for a month, you could be caught cold. Like, so again, I wouldn't. If I was in the semi-final, I wouldn't be arguing against it. But seeing that we're not, and we get over the quarter final, it's set up lovely. You have every 2 weeks, which is fair play again to the county board. I think this is a great competition. Like, this is going to get absolutely very serious. To stay in senior for any club coming in the next 4 or 5 years would be nearly as hard as getting into a semi-final or final.
Do you see the standard rising, James? That you mentioned Éire Óg, who only came up a matter of months ago and had that epic battle, making it through to the quarterfinals as well on Friday night. Do you see that there's an improvement in the standard of football?
Well, I think the improvement will come in the few years, but with the competition, you can't fall asleep for a second. You can't have a bad year. If you have a bad year, you look at other counties there. I won't mention any clubs, but in Dublin and Kerry, there teams that have won All Irelands and won Munsters and won counties are in relegation trouble. So there's no hiding. So every day is a final, and local derbies. It's very entertaining, which should rise standards in years to come. I think when you hit the quarterfinals and finals, semi-finals and finals, the standards rise big time then. But there was a stat there said in the paper somewhere, I read it, the 42 teams out of 52 or something were still could go through, in all the grades the last time, which is outstanding. Usually they'd be dead rubbers all over the place, which there wasn't. Like, so maybe it's like the All Ireland. They're trying to change the All Ireland. They just have to tweak it a bit, and maybe for the dual clubs it is tough, but the window is short to run it. The only problem at the moment with it is the weather. Hopefully after COVID we'd be into a final by this stage, but it's going to be tough on clubs with pitches and lights and stuff if it's going to continue into late November.
Okay, so Valley Rovers, your opponents on Sunday. I was looking back. You played in the league a few months ago. If we get a game anyway like that, James, we're in for a thriller.
Yeah, that was a very entertaining game again. It was intense stuff. Loads of scores in it. Open football. I don't expect it to be as open. Maybe the next day as the stakes are higher. But in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, with good forwards on both sides, it should be hopefully a high-scoring game.
Paul, thanks so much for joining us. Let's go back to the start of this championship campaign. What a way to start, defeating Nemo in your opening game. Talk to me about the strategy and the tactics in that match.
I suppose, look, we were in a good position really in comparison to Nemo. We got to look at them a week earlier in county final and all their glory as such, whatever they had to produce was going to be producing that day. So the game was live on TG4, so we got a good look at it, and we did a bit of work with it during the week. But look, you still have to go out and implement these things then, I was delighted with the lads that, really concentration was good. They stuck to the plan, and they got the reward. Okay,
how difficult is it in the heat of championship, and I've asked this of many managers, to stick to the plan? Things that you might have worked on in training, but then when you're in a match situation, when the temperature is raised, how hard is it to stick to that objective?
I suppose it's probably the difference between good teams and very good teams. The very good teams you always hear about the Man Uniteds or maybe the Liverpools at this stage, winning 1-0 against poor sides, They just get it done. It's difficult. It's difficult. And when you're aware of threats that opposition have, and next thing they produce in that threat, that's, you have to answer that. That's when you see what you've got. But you can stick to the plan, stay strong, get organised, and go again,
Okay, Douglas was next up then for you. Did the plan fall down that day?
We didn't play well that day. No. After the Nemo game, they went straight into 2 weeks of hurling, so we actually didn't meet up until the Tuesday night before the Douglas game again, and we never got to the pitch of what was required that week at all. For whatever reason, couldn't put a finger on it. conversely, the Tuesday night after the Douglas game, we sat down and watched the game, and it was probably the best meeting we've ever had. Now, we don't do a lot of meetings, but that was a great meeting. And I think everybody knew, all of us, that we didn't turn up on the day, and it was very, very disappointing.
Okay, we'll come back, because you mentioned it there, to the hurling in a few moments' time. But let's talk about the final game then against Carrigaline. There was all these permutations and calculations and what Valleys needed to do, what Nemo needed to do, what Douglas needed to do. And obviously it turned into an incredibly dramatic Sunday afternoon in Páirc Uí Rinn between Douglas and Nemo. But you were taking care of business yourselves as well too that day. Yeah, and that was kind of our intention, really. We didn't want to be in a scenario where we were asking what's the score up in Páirc Uí Rinn or who's winning or what. We just wanted we decided what we needed to do ourselves, and we came up with a plan to do it, and it worked out in the day. Now, to be fair to Carrigaline, I think I went up to see them play in Nemo after the Douglas game directly, and 2 of the 3 guys that we would have highlighted in that game to be tagged in our match didn't play with injury, so Carrigaline were really stretched on that day in Ballinhassig. Okay, no, you wouldn't be noted as a team for scoring goals, but you had plenty of them that day, though, all the same. Yeah, it just, on the foot conditions were very heavy. Long range shooting, we had 7 wides in the first quarter. There was a bit of a breeze there, the pitch was heavy. I think guys just actually changed or ended up carrying the ball closer to the goal, and things just happened for them then, Now, we mentioned there the hurling. Obviously, Valleys going very well in the Premier Intermediate. They're through to a semi-final now against Cork Rovers. Explain to me what the crossover is like, and I'd love to hear as well, how do you manage training and keeping all those dual players going? Well, there's a great relationship between 2 managements anyway, and there has to be, and that's just done out of respect to the players, really. These guys are going on the pitch. We'd all love perfect scenario. We would have them 3 days a week, every week. That's not the scenario in the club, which is fine. Everything is done about respecting the effort that the players are making. Basically, whatever game championship is on the following weekend, that team trains with the entire panel that week. So when it's a hurling week, that leaves us with 6 or 7 non-hurlers to do non-hurling sessions, we call them, basically. Mm-hmm. But again, those guys turn up every night, whether it's running or conditioning or whatever, they just accept it and they get on with it. They know the lads will be back to them the week after. It's the way it is. It's the way it is. Like everyone has talked about the system, Paul, how good it is now with the group games and you're guaranteed your 3 matches. But then the counter on that is it is extremely difficult on dual clubs like Valleys. Is there any solution you think is out there? Well, I wouldn't be going into, I don't know, the options available to the county board as regards calendars and stuff. That doesn't really interest me, but it definitely needs to be addressed. Our scenario this week, we had 10 dual players playing in Blarney on a heavy pitch last Sunday. That was their 7th game in 8 weeks. Wow. So we have to give them a couple of days off this week. Unfortunately, we were due to train yesterday and the weather conditions haven't allowed us out onto the J pitch. So, you're on about guys committing to the J and playing for their club. We haven't been together on a pitch as a panel since the Carrigaline match. And we're now 3 days away from playing Castlehaven. And that's not even mentioned the fact we'd have 2 or 3 guys that will have to go to a physio on Friday to see whether they can play or not, because they have the semi-final of the hurling the week after. So we have to be fair to everybody. And that the system at the moment, great excitement, especially the group games and the scoring difference. And, I think the online ticketing is brilliant as well. I think there's a great take-up on it. It's, but I do think the genuine dual clubs and dual players are getting left behind big time. Okay, finally then, it's a rather onerous task this weekend for you. Castlehaven, well, again, I was going to say they don't come much bigger. You've already downed one big name in this championship. What's to say you can't do it twice in a season? Oh yeah, we'll be trying anyway. But these guys are the benchmark, like the Nemos, Castlehavens. I think 5 county finals between them both in the last 10 years. Castlehaven have won 2. Nemo and Castlehaven for me are the 2 top teams in Cork always. Teams come in and out of it. Duhallow will drop in for a year or 2. The Bars will come. Ballincollig will drop in. But Nemo and Castlehaven are the benchmark in Cork football, and they have been for a long time.
again, probably both clubs that only have one code, which helps, you know. Maybe that's why they're so successful, we don't know. But look, we'll be going up to do our best. We'll know Friday night who's available to us, and we'll try and come up with a plan then for Sunday.
Interviews. We're here in a very cold, windy, wet Páirc Uí Chaoimh, but I'm lucky that I have Brian Cuthbert and John Hayes here as windbreakers alongside me. October 31st, lads. It's nippy up here.
Yeah, it's very, very, very windy. As you know, looking down the pitch at the moment now, Colm, you can see playing down into the Blackrock end. The game is going to be played in that half. Obviously, whoever manages this weather better will come out on top, because we were just saying there off air that it's going to be extremely difficult to score in the city end, judging by the wind that's howling around the stadium here. So I think defence will come out on top in terms of winning the game. Whoever's defence acclimatises to this wind, and obviously it won't be a 6v6 at any stage, I'd say. There'll be plenty of bodies back behind the ball when you're playing against the wind. So it's going to be intriguing, it's going to be interesting, it's going to be very physical, which might suit both teams, to be honest. But, it is extremely, extremely windy, extremely cold, and the rain could be on the way as well.
Okay, that's our worries up here, just in the commentary box. John, just in relation to, conditions this time of the year, like, do teams plan accordingly now? Like, are they kind of looking at the weather forecast and kind of saying, right, we're in for a very blustery, stormy kind of day, and we're going to change tack as a result?
Yeah, you could very well see it that tactically things could change today. What'll be interesting to see is who wins the toss and whether they take the wind in the first half or go against it. Do you want to try and defend with everything you have and hope that you have the benefit of the wind in the second half, or do you take the wind and try and build up a lead in the hope of defending it strongly in the second half? I suppose in terms of training and preparing, you can only train and prepare in the conditions that you've got, and they won't have got to conditions like this all along. So it's about getting your bearings, as Brian said, working it into the city, and you're going to have to work it within 25-30 yards max before you take a shot on. At the other end, not to take the shot on too soon, not to get carried away because there's a wind there and you think you can put it over from 50-55. Patience going that way, but it certainly will be the scoring goal. So like I said, it'll be interesting to see who lines out against the wind. They'll pull the numbers behind the ball to try and keep the score down, and can the other team take advantage on the scoreboard?
Okay, well, let's pull up the teams. We're going to start off with the Castlehaven team. Two late changes just being informed there in the last few moments, and two big names coming in. Roland Welton and Andrew Welton are both out. First cousins, 6 and 12, and it's two Cahillans in. Damien Cahallan wearing number 20 and Conor Cahallan wearing number 17. Not too bad subs to be bringing in there, Brian.
No, Colm, you'd have to say Damien and Conor would feature with Castlehaven all the time. I think John was just saying there that against Ross that neither of them started. Damien was injured, I think, and Conor came on as a sub. So maybe the team that was named in the programme was much the same team as the last day. But, to be fair, the three Cahallan brothers together they were always going to start this game once they were fit, and I think they'll have a big influence on the outcome. But Connor and Jack and Damien, they're fine footballers, and absolutely they're an integral part of the Haven setup.
But apart from the two Cahillans, there's quality right throughout this team, though. Let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely, and their experience as well. I think days like today, experience is a key factor, and no more so than Mark Collins. And to be fair to him, he has led Castlehaven brilliantly over the last 5-6 years, really, as their mainstay intercounty footballer. But obviously supported usually by Brian and Michael Hurley. And to be fair to the two boys up front, they have given both Cork and Castlehaven huge ammunition and huge scores when they're needed, and especially Michael, obviously the younger brother, but Brian has given Castlehaven huge advantage in games, and especially big games. No more so than last year, Colm, when we did the Bars in Castlehaven, and that sideline ball is still in my head that needed to go over and come at the hour, come at the man, and Brian stuck it over, and he's been doing that since he's been 16 or 17. So I can't wax lyrically enough about him. He's a top player.
Okay, we'll bring up the Valley Rovers team onto the screen there now. One change from the early team news that we were given. Cian O'Keefe, number 7, is out, and it's 27 Jacob O'Driscoll, who's the man that's going in at wing back. Fair to say, surprise packets, John, Valleys to be here?
Yeah, well, look, I suppose most people would have expected Nemo to come out of it, come out of the group, and then that Douglas and Valleys would be in a dogfight. But Valleys, they picked Nemo off in the first game, which was a huge result. Lost to Douglas afterwards, but comfortably beat Carrigaline. They're probably a team not with the stars like Castlehaven that Brian was talking about, but they're a dual club. We know Paul Holland was talking during the week about the number of games a lot of their guys have played in the last 7 or 8 weeks, so they'll be super fit. Can tiredness come into it? Maybe, but look, they have they're hardened from championship matches, and they've deservedly come out of the group, taking Nemo's scalp, so I'm sure Castlehaven will be very wary of the challenge in front of them. Okay,
well, there's one very experienced campaigner in the middle of the field, Kevin Canty, time and time again, whether we're talking hurling or football matches, he's the go-to man for Valleys.
Yeah, and that's true. And look, while I say they don't have quite the stars of the other team, they have some very seasoned campaigners and great operators at this level. Kevin Canty, Chris O'Leary, Fiacre Lynch. Looking forward to seeing Billy Crowley as well. I know his brother's making waves in the rugby world, and he's been playing very well for Valley Rovers. And I think it was Owen O'Reilly got a hat-trick off the bench against Carrigaline, so maybe he's someone we need to keep an eye out for coming off the bench as well today. So they're not without their good players as well, and I'm sure knowing Valley Rovers tradition, they won't make anything easy for Castlehaven today.
Okay, but just bringing you back in, the point that Paul Holland was making, a lot of other managers have been making, that difficulty for a dual club like Valleys playing a singular club like Castlehaven.
Yeah, and I suppose we've touched this point a good few times in commentaries over the last number of weeks. This condensed season, even though it's extremely exciting for everybody involved in the GA, it is quite difficult for dual clubs to actually have all of your players available over a very condensed 6 or 7 or 8 week period. I suppose clubs like Valleys and the other dual clubs, in one way they love the idea that we're up and running and everybody knows when you're playing, but in another way the games do come thick and fast, and pick up any slight knock at all, Colm, any small tear, and you're out for 2 or 3 weeks. You could miss 3 games. And
the other issue at the moment, Paul mentioned it in our pre-match video, is with pitches out of commission at the moment. He made the point that the hurlers spent their week with the hurlers, but Valleys then didn't actually have a chance to get them all out on the field because there wasn't a pitch available to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, this time of the year, even with the split season, as I say, everybody knows when they're playing, but even today, deciding a championship in this wind and rain, it's not ideal. Like, clubs really do want to be playing in the middle of the summer when the weather is very good and you know what you have going to games. Today is going to be a bit of a lottery, and I suppose we need to be very cognizant of the split season and not pushing clubs just to the hind end of the year just because it makes commercial and financial sense in terms of our national games at intercounty level. So I think there's a lot of thought has to go into this, because it's not really fair that players at club level are just left to the gods in terms of the elements, and everyone else can, in the county level, can play, in at the height of the summer.
Okay, well, you're still in and around match day squads, John. You've seen Castlehaven up close and personal. Are we giving them the vote here today?
Yeah, look, you'd have to give Castlehaven the nod. They're favourites and justified. County finalists last year, perennial contenders. Valley Rovers have got to quarterfinals, but this seems to be as far as they've gotten in recent years. Castlehaven tipped to win it, but not without a struggle.
Up and running here, trying to get the match notes down and slotted away in this windy condition, as Mark Collins getting it in towards his corner forward, and that looks to be gone wide, trying to catch the wind, but it just shows the danger already inside there from Castlehaven. Getting the shot off there from the corner forward. Conor O'Driscoll. It'll be interesting to see now what Cormac Desmond is going to manufacture in terms of a kick out here, given the wind that he's facing, and how it's going to hold up. Gets about 45 yards onto it. Kevin Canty gets his hands to it, but it's only broken down. Damien Cahalan in there into Jack Cahalan, nudges it away. But, Valley's somehow managing to get it back out through their centre back William Hurley. A couple of heavy getting to know yous inside there. Oh, there's my match notes gone absolutely flying off over there into the distance. So we'll have to work it out here as Castlehaven take it up from the back. I'm going to have to steal across here to Brian's notes. Anyway, back we go. It's a Cahalan down there. Mark Collins. There's an arm around the neck. He's gone route one inside there yet again. Into the corner. Being held up, and the shot eventually coming off and gone wide. And that's 2 wides in the opening 5 minutes there from Castlehaven.
Yeah, interesting enough, as much as we predicted that, it would be very defensive. I don't know if you agree with me or not, John, but Castlehaven are having the opportunity to pop ball into one-on-one attack first defender inside, and there seems to be a large space between their half-back line and their full-back line in terms of Valley Rover setup.
Yeah, look, we can see it here from up on high that there's only 3, well, there's 3 up for Valleys at the moment, so they haven't pulled everyone back. Interestingly, Mark Collins has been able to deliver 2 direct kick passes straight into Michael Hurley, who's won them clean both. Had 2 wides. I felt with the second one he was probably fouled. Brian's in on goal here, and Brian takes the first score. There's definitely space for the 2 Hurleys inside, so it might not be quite as defensive as we were expecting. Maybe Valleys will change that as the half wears on.
Okay, my thanks there to John as I went running across the stand trying to find my match notes. But opening score of the game anyway, and coming after 3 minutes, and no surprise, Brian Hurley's been the top scorer in this championship for Castlehaven. And a touch of class from him. Heavy hit there in the middle of the field. Kevin Canty though is back up on his feet. Gone in as far as Owen Delaney. Into Fiacre Lynch, and Fiacre onto his right. Has he judged that perfection? That is a fantastic kick by Fiacre Lynch, season campaigner.
He's just defied all our predictions before the game. We had felt that you'd have to be in around the D to actually score. Fiacre Lynch was halfway between the 45 and the D there, and he had another 5 or 6 yards on the shot. Just shows you when you kick the ball right, like he can do all the time, the ball will travel. So fair play.
Oh, fantastic connection by Fiacre. That's Damien Cahalan there on the ball, wearing number 20. Great ball in there in towards Brian Hurley, and the shot going off from Hurley, and that one has gone over the bar. 2 from 2.
Yeah, what Brian was talking about there a minute ago, there's definitely space for the 2 Hurleys inside. They've won 2 balls each. as I said, Michael had a couple of wides, and Brian has now got 2 points on the board. Great score from Fiacre on the other on the other side. As Brian said, a very technically proficient shooter. If he gets on form like that, he can certainly get his few scores, and into the wind that will be invaluable for Valley Rovers.
Cormac Desmond being forced to readjust the ball. That'll just give you an indication of how strong the wind is down there on pitch level here in Páirc Uí Chaoimh this afternoon. Kevin Canty, 34 years of age now, 34 years young, he'd say. It's out there with the wing forward there, that's Rory O'Sullivan. Forced to go back, bring in William Hurley, the centre back, and now it's Kevin Canty, but he's been closely tracked over there on that far sideline. Valley's spreading out, being forced to go lateral at the moment. Cornerback Adam Walsh-Murphy there is on the left hand side if he wants it from Johnny Kiley. Kiley being fouled. And it's a free, and it's Adam Walsh-Murphy who's holding on to it, a Cork All-Ireland minor winner.
Just interesting enough, Colm, like once that play was going ahead, myself and John were looking back down the field. It's basically 2-on-2 with kind of a half a cover for Valley Rovers. So Brian and Michael are up against one defender. So if Castlehaven get the ball back, there's going to be hell to pay down here because there's huge space.
No surprise, Fiacre Lynch going short with the kick to bring in Owen Delaney. And another free being conceded. There was a tug on Delaney's shoulder, and that's going to be a free, second free of the afternoon there in this danger area. And it's Billy Crowley, star man of course against Nemo Rangers. And let's see if he can pop this one over. Good connection on it. Has he brought a bit of curl into it? He has. John Hayes likes that.
Yeah, it was lovely. Drew it in from the far post very nicely. Looked like he might have just let it slip to the right hand side, but he had a little bit of curl on it, and it's a very good kick. And for a free taker to nail his first one like that is great for the confidence.
Certainly is. Conor Cahalane is wearing 17, just to remind you. Another Cahalane is inside him, and that's Jack Cahalane. The ball was looking to find its way in there, but great defending by Valley Rovers and William Hurley. Kevin Canty taking the quick free. Very disciplined performance by Valleys in these opening few moments. As the lad said, it's a bit of a high-risk strategy the way they're set up. Fiacre Lynch going in towards his corner forward to Billy Crowley, gone back out to the centre forward Dara Murphy. Murphy opting to go himself, but he's just running into a wall. Back to Canty, who's going to go crossfield, but intercepted there. It's like a rugby out half kick, but the Castlehaven defender saw the danger and was perfectly placed to cut it out. 7 minutes elapsed, 2 points apiece, and again, the conditions I think will be very much the talking point of this game. Great defensive unity again there by Valleys. Kevin Canty sitting back a bit farther to help out his defence. Great ball in there with a great hand across there to be Rory Maguire that got onto it. Cahalane's kick, but too much boot to ball there and gone out over the sideline.
Yeah, admittedly we've said that it's high risk for Valley Rovers in a way that they would have basically 2v2 at the back with a small bit of cover. But at the same time, they seem very comfortable in what they're doing. They're keeping the ball as much as they can. Obviously, they're playing against the Gale, and by keeping the ball, obviously Castlehaven can't attack them. But they're extremely tenacious as well. So they're giving themselves a real opportunity. And to be fair, they're being very, very brave.
It's Mark Collins getting the kick off in the end. Has it crept inside the post? Yes, it has. Great timing on the run there, though, John, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And look, I was just about to comment that Valleys will be very happy with the start they've made, playing into a gale of wind to be 2-2, but they actually coughed over that possession after winning a turnover themselves. They gave it away quite cheaply, and Castlehaven, through Mark Collins, punished with a score. And look, Brian Hurley with 2, Mark Collins with 1. You know, we've seen this story before, but in fairness to them, they do stand up for Castlehaven time and again.
But, as you said, though, given the conditions, I'm sure Valleys won't have too many complaints to be just a point adrift after 10 minutes and kind of playing quite tenaciously, it has to be said. That's William Hurley on the ball, who's Fiacre Lynch was offering for it, but so too was Billy Crowley. It's out, would you believe, with the full-back. Great fisted pass in there, and looked to be a bit of a pullback there on Jack Walsh. And yes, the referee spotted actually subsequently a touch on the ground. Jack Walsh, ever so dangerous, star soccer player as well too with Cork City, and looked to have been a pullback on Walsh, but I think it was subsequently touching the ball on the ground.
Yeah, he's given it for touching the ball on the ground, but definitely there was a pullback there from, I'd say, Conor Callahan. But you'd have to hand it to Valleys. They seem very, very composed when they have the ball. They're working the ball forward very deliberately, and are, I think, very, very well organised. Bar this issue that we have in terms of being so brave going 1-on-1, and maybe they just feel that they have the defenders to hold the 2 lads inside, so that they can play the way they're playing when they have the ball.
And ironically, it was that their full back David Lynch that gave in the pass that led to the free there. So that's just giving you an idea of the mindset that Valleys are taking into this first half, given these very, very challenging conditions against the wind here in Páirc Uí Chaoimh this afternoon. It's Conor Callahan over there, going out for a sideline. Pitch in superb condition, though, it has to be said, given all the rain that we've had in Cork over the last 24 hours. Brian Hurley again off the left, off the right, should I say, and got a bit too much purchase on that and has driven it wide. Noise you're hearing in the background is the fluttering of notes, paper, and my heart every time I see my match notes deciding to take off and heading towards the Atlantic Pond. Kick out from Cormac Desmond, just getting caught up by the wind, but still wonderful play there by Jack Walsh. I think got away with it there. Looked like he had touched the ball on the ground. David Lynch has got on quite a lot of ball in the opening exchanges. Opting to go out towards his wing back, out towards Thomas O'Brien on that far side. Somehow keeping the ball in play, doing ever so well. Getting it in, touches off a Castlehaven leg, and it's going to be a sideline down there for Valleys. Shoulder and on the end line, and it's gone out for a 45. It's being called for a 45. They were kind of holding off and as to who was going to go for it, but eventually it's going to be a 45, and it's Fiacre Lynch that's going to come out and take that. Question is now who's going to offer themselves. For a second there, it looked like he was going to go back towards Kevin Canty, but given the strong wind, I can't see this reaching its destination. Here's Fiacre Lynch. Good connection all the same, and somehow it looked like it had been kept in play, but by Chris O'Leary, but the umpire thought for a second and then waved it wide. Quick kick out by the goalkeeper Anthony Seymour, and off they come again with Damien Callahan. And it's off the boot of David Lynch and out for a sideline right on the 45. Can't be any argument with that one.
Yeah, I think Colm, when the water break coming, as John said a while ago, Valley Rovers will be very, very pleased. Obviously, to be level, playing against an absolute gale. I think Castlehaven are going to have to speed up their game a small bit if they want to use this wind. It's halfway through the half already, and they've only had 5 or 6 shots. They need to up their intensity and up the speed of their play Valley Rovers very happy to see them going over and back the field here. Now's the chance, I suppose.
Yeah, it's opening up there now, and the way that Castlehaven can just turn defence into attack so quickly. The shot eventually coming off from the corner forward, off the post, bouncing down. Walsh is under it, Jack Walsh. That's the nominal wing forward, if there's ever such a thing in Gaelic football now. Out to his cornerback, Adam Walsh-Murphy. He's a great engine on him, but opts to go short to Dara Murphy. And it's out now again with Kevin Canty. But as you said though, Brian, that kind of lateral play and then striking a post sucks the energy and sucks a bit of confidence out of a team. Referee calling for a bit of assistance to come in there, a bit of a knock to the leg. Obviously, referee prefers for it to be treated rather than to continue as we're edging towards the first water break. 3 points apiece. So for Valley Rovers, against that very strong wind, John, I'm sure it'd be very happy with where they're at. But you still have that feeling with Castlehaven. It's just going to take one bit of a slip or one bit of a connection, and the complexion of the game could change in a matter of seconds.
Well, yeah, no, Brian has alluded to it. It's quite a high-risk strategy that they're playing. I suppose that last attack was the first time I think they probably pulled about 14 behind the ball, but Castlehaven still cut them open. Ended up giving the hand pass, and the shot came off the post. And we know, look, they'll be delighted with this so far, but when you leave it like that with Brian and Michael Hurley, there's goals in those two guys, and it's going to be interesting to see how it develops. But Valley's doing very well. I have to say they'd be delighted with their opening 15.
It's Darren Murphy bringing Jack Walsh into it. Kevin Canty offering assistance. Going back into traffic though. It's Darren Murphy again. All the way out there to the far side of the field, offering himself to return. Kevin Canty sneaking in behind two defenders. Still Canty on the 45. Opts to go short into his wing forward. That was Jack Walsh, but Walsh's kick easily intercepted, and Castlehaven have again with David Callahan, and now Mark Collins scored that fine point about 5 minutes ago. Callahan bouncing out of 2 or 3 tackles, but takes a blow across the side of the face. I think it might have been Billy Crowley that connected with him, but off they go again at speed, and that's Cathal Maguire. Maguire though forced to kind of almost go backwards in an attempt to go forward. Kick there from Jack Callahan in towards Brian Hurley, bounces through, and Valleys have 2 men back, and out they come again. A very fractured play so far. It's Fiacre Lynch going back to Jack Walsh. Distinctive boots making them easy to pick out here. Dara Murphy again into William Hurley and Kevin Canty. And Hurley again, and back with Dara Murphy. That's David Lynch, the fullback, all the way up there, working out to the far side of the field. Fiacre Lynch again. Still Lynch rides through 2 tackles, but very hard to get a shot off in that condition, and it's kind of like a Gary Owen just sailed straight up into the air and straight back down and into a Castlehaven defender's hands. It looked to be Ronan Walsh down there, and back we go again.
Yeah, I would say from a spectator's viewpoint here, both on the stream and actually here live, it's very frustrating watching the game because it's just an over and back game. Little impetus in terms of pace on the ball, and I would be urging Castlehaven, if they're going to win this game, to go up their intensity and up the ante a small bit.
Cathal Maguire obviously heard you there, and he passed it off to Mark Collins, and Mark Collins doing what Mark Collins does ever so well from about 45 yards. A theatrical blow of the whistle from David Murnane for the water break, but as Brian said, bit of urgency there. Great play by Cathal Maguire. Saw the run again from Mark Collins, and bang, over.
Look, we've commended Valley Rovers on the way they've started, but on the flip side, Castlehaven haven't really got motoring. Brian and Michael have got 2 points each, 2 good scores each. Tale as old as time there with Castlehaven, but conditions actually seem to be worsening as we go along. So I think Castlehaven will need, or will certainly want, a better lead than 1 point. this in all terms is a 6 or 7 point lead. Just one other thing, just watching Brian touched on frustration to watch it. The jerseys are so similar, and so for someone like me who is the red-green colour blind, it's very hard to make out between the two, especially when they're in a pack in the middle. But Valley Rovers the happier, but that was a great score from Mark there just before it. I expect to see a pick up in intensity from Castlehaven in this 15 minutes. I'm sure the management are down below there, quietly reminding them that the winning of the game could be in the next 15 too.
It's definitely the conditions worsening here. In our vantage point anyway, and like down pitch side, that wind, if anything, seems to be increasing.
Yeah, I just think for Castlehaven, if you're playing with the strength of a breeze like this and you go with your 2 inside, which lots of teams do, the idea is that, most especially the way Valley Rovers have set up defensively, the idea is that you get the ball to the inside 2 as quickly as you can with quality. But for Castlehaven, they seem to intent on 3 or 4 extra passes out around the middle of the field rather than moving the ball inside. And Michael and Brian, to be fair to them, any ball that's kicked into them, they're actually winning them comfortably. So if I were Castlehaven, I'd be saying, let's get back on the ball, and any ball we win back or any primary possession we get, let's try and move it as quickly as we can into the 2 lads inside, and that's their game.
Again, and they have the men inside that can pull the trigger, as Brian Hurley has shown twice already. But great, as we mentioned a little earlier, to have the calibre of Mark Collins at midfield, who's already popped over 2 fine scores, and those combined have pushed Castlehaven into a 4-3 lead here in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Another kind of needless free being given away there by Castlehaven, and Valley's gratefully taking it, but really from that range they're going to have to go short, and that's what they do with Jack Walsh combining with Kevin Canty. Kevin being stood up there, and he's brought in Owen Delaney. On the ball now is Fiacre Lynch, as Chris O'Leary was held up, and Fiacre getting a shot and trying to get it out the outside of the boot, and that one is tailed wide. But Chris O'Leary unhappy. He collided into Damien Cahalan and felt he was being impeded, but referee David Moran waving play on. Rory Maguire is the fullback this afternoon for Castlehaven. Anthony Seymour, the goalkeeper, obviously will face a much tougher afternoon in the second half when he's facing into that wind with his kick-outs. David McCarthy out there to Michael Hurley. It's Damien Cahalan going back again, and David McCarthy, and going right across the field. And again, it's the same issue that the lads have been talking about, this crossfield build-up that Castlehaven are trying to engineer a score. Has it produced a score on this occasion? No, it has gone wide yet again, and you can sense that bit of frustration coming through from the Castlehaven attackers after that one has gone wide.
I see 20 minutes gone, Colm, and I think Brian Hurley maybe out of frustration. He's decided to come out to field a small. He seems to be playing on the 45 now as a kind of a centre forward. Jack Cahalan's gone inside, but again, these chances that you're getting with the breeze, you have to be scoring 75% of them, and I'd say Castlehaven are looking to be at 30 or 40% at the moment.
That's Brian Hurley there to Mark Collins. Mark has looked ever so dangerous, and a lovely ball being placed in towards the corner forward. The shot, right over the top of the crossbar. I think it was Conor O'Driscoll. Again, hard to make out the numbers here on some of the Castlehaven players, but looked to be a great goal chance, to be honest there, John, wasn't it?
Yeah, and again, Mark Collins the fulcrum of it. It was Conor O'Driscoll that ended up with the goal chance. A little bit of a tight angle. He did the right thing coming at that side. He had a pop at it, just drifted over the crossbar. Important score for Castlehaven, just to keep the scoreboard taking over there, the wide from Colm O'Connor just before it. Big 10 minutes here now in the context of the game. Next couple of scores, if Castlehaven start to take over around midfield like they have in the last couple of kickouts and could clip a few scores on the board, they could be a different second half. Yeah,
and yet again it was this man on the ball, Mark Collins. His fingerprints were on the build up to that last score. Always has that ability to be in the right place at the right time. Michael Hurley going all the way back towards Damien Cahalane. And Castlehaven building up slowly but surely. Mark Collins is kind of in and around the 14-yard line, so he's a nice target man if they opt to go that route. Instead it's Jack Cahalane. What a talented young man he is. And being brought down, eventually being back to Mark Collins, but there was a foul committed, and Valleys gratefully accepting it. Kevin Canty popping it out there towards his corner forward Owen Delaney, and Delaney takes a very heavy hit there, and referee David Marnan is going to come over and have some stern words there as the corner forward Delaney was heavily hit there, and some afters developing there. So
I'm not sure that he catch him anywhere close to his head, to be fair. I think Brian caught him in the chest. It looked like that to me anyway. I'd say he'd get a yellow card here probably.
Yeah, it was just a yellow card to Brian Hurley. But I think, as you said, he just caught Delaney was at pace and he just caught him square, and down he went. But obviously in this day and age, any hint of a head injury has to be treated with the seriousness that it deserves.
Just a point to note there as well, Colm, is that Jacob O'Driscoll, who was brought into the Valley Rovers team, has been picking up Jack Cahalane, has been sticking very tightly to him. There's a possibility he could have been a free in the last one, but he secured the turnover, and he'll be very happy with his afternoon's work so far. Been a big plus for Valleys.
Oh, great little play there. Adam Walsh-Murphy is on the ball, getting it off the left. A bit of a shot to nothing, and it should be easy for Anthony Seymour to collect. It was, but a nice little passage there of 3 or 4 passes by Valleys, but Adam Walsh-Murphy's shot again with the wind didn't have the requisite power, and it's Castlehaven who come with Conor O'Driscoll scored that point a few moments ago, bringing in Damien Cahalane now. Has lovely little dummy there, almost inviting his brother Jack onto it, and Damien winning the free. He's a powerful man coming from the back. Well, Connor, should I say, on that occasion. He's a powerful man coming out, and the end result is a free to Brian Hurley.
Yeah, I think Connor showed in his debut season with the Cork Senior Hurlers this year how much of an athlete he is, and how even at that level he could cut down the middle of opposition defences.
Bit dangerous under the crossbar there, but 2 or 3 Valleys hands conspiring to keep the ball out.
Yeah, it's another shot column though that has no return. So you'd have to think that Valley Rovers are going to have plenty of shots in the second half, and if they're a bit more clinical than the Haven, it's going to be a very difficult second half for the Castlehaven.
Surprised with someone of Brian's experience, it was a bit nonchalant with the kick there. I thought he'd have added another bit of power. Maybe he was over-judging the wind.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you have a wind this strong, that sometimes players just think, once I put it up in the air, it's going to travel, but you have to kick the ball as well, and definitely he was nonchalant there in terms of his style and in terms of the kick.
Johnny Kiley on the far side of the field, cross there towards Kevin Canty. It's out with the centre back William Hurley, and now it's Dara Murphy. Murphy kind of been forced to turn around and go backwards and bring Canty back into it. It's out with the corner forward Billy Crowley now. Crowley going through 2 tackles, still Crowley getting the shot off. And has he got it over the bar? He has. I must say though, from a Castlehaven perspective, there was 2 tacklers there and he just waltzed right through them.
He did, but look, to give him his dues, he's a powerful man. Obviously probably played a little bit of rugby like the brother did, but he also showed the skill to take a play on the ball when he was bursting through those two tackles and took it into the scoring area and kicked a fine score. That's a really impressive point from someone who's had a good championship so far.
It's 5 points to 4 now, and that's Michael Hurley who's on the ball there. Gone back as far as Damien Cahalane. I'm getting my Cahalanes confused. Thanks for that, Brian, to Connor now. I'll eventually get it. Again, picking the numbers out of the Castlehaven jerseys from this vantage point is quite difficult. That's David McCarthy though over on the far side, wearing number 7. Nice little turn by David McCarthy. And inside, the shot eventually coming off, and it's all the way into the goalkeeper, Cormac Desmond. Ever so easy for him, and Jack Walsh, a willing runner. Thankfully, the rain seems to have stopped, and the breeze has just died there for a second. It'll be interesting to see will that be the case for the second half. Fiacre Lynch. Oh, but he's cornerback yet again, Johnny Kiley. He's in a very advanced position. Valley's looking for a free there, but I think it was more a slip. And it's Castlehaven coming right across in front of us there, right into the chest of Conor O'Driscoll. It's Damien Cahalan. And then again, 2 Valleys players going up for it. It's found its way down as far as the Castlehaven corner forward, Conor O'Driscoll, but he's dispossessed. Out with Owen Delaney has recovered from that collision a little earlier. William Hurley races on there between Fiacre Lynch and Damien Cahalan, and Damien bursting out. Look at that for a power play by him. Takes just goes past William Hurley as if he wasn't there. And now Castlehaven going through the gears, looking ever so dangerous. The runner inside is Conor Cahalan, but didn't go as far as him. Mark Collins going to bring in Brian Hurley. Will he pop it on to the left, go himself? No, he's opting to go back, and the shot eventually coming off from the other corner forward. It's from Michael Hurley, and that is a fantastic score.
Brilliant kick. To be fair, you know, we were expecting before the game that there would be a couple of scores like that, judging to the strength of the wind. But I think Castlehaven have been, you know, they just for me have been just a bit too slow in their build-up play. Obviously, when Michael and Brian and Jack Allen, Mark Collins, those 4 players in particular, if they get onto the ball anywhere within 30 or 40 metres there in this first half, they should be able to score. And I just think that, you know, there's 3 or 4 or 5 minutes left. Castlehaven will need another 1 or 2 points.
6 points to 4. It's Castlehaven who lead. But just coming up on half an hour here, and we will have a few seconds of additional time, but very dangerous play by Valleys, putting themselves under huge pressure, playing the ball back out over their own defence, and I would say fortunate on that occasion to get the free out, but that was all their own doing to create that scenario.
All pressure sustained that only 8. Additional time in the first half, at least 2 minutes.
2 minutes of additional time to be played here in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Question is, can Valley Rovers get another score and bring themselves within a point of Castlehaven, or can the Haven get that score, as Brian and John have been saying, that really with the wind that they've had at their backs, that they need to bunker and hunker down for the second half here when they'll be facing into the elements. That's Jack Walsh, but again, from a Castlehaven perspective, Valleys can have the ball all they want when they're having it back there, and they're eventually after fouling it. And a great ball in towards Mark Collins. Collins on the 14. Collins with the shot. Great goal, and that is the score that we were talking that Castlehaven needed.
Yeah, look, that's a massive moment. Valleys were caught trying to pretty much just burn down the clock to half time. Overplayed it in the field, in fairness to their midfield players and centre back William Hurley. They worked very hard in the first half and they played well, but they coughed up a chief turnover. I'm not sure who delivered the kick pass, but it might have been Brian Hurley. That's what Brian's telling me in my ear here. But straight into Mark Collins, a little sidestep and a good finish, and that's a huge moment in the game. But still all to play for going into the second half.
But the way that Mark Collins, what is it? I think he's 1-2 already scored from midfield. The way he had snuck in there, planted himself on the edge of the square, and a sublime finish then as well.
Absolutely, Colm. And look, John said earlier on, we've seen this for a long time. You know, Mark Collins, Brian Hurley, Michael Hurley, Jack Allen, you know, to a lesser degree is a newer guy on the squad, on the team. But those 3 players in particular, they're the guys you need to clamp down. And as soon as the turnover came and the referee gave the free, you could see Brian looking for Mark. And I'd say even John would know this from intercounty, even in training, the two of them always and ever have this kind of relationship telepathic
yeah.
almost, where one gives the ball to the other and vice versa. And they've been doing that, I'd say, since the last 20 years. And you could see as soon as Brian got the ball, Mark was even running because he knew that he was going to get the pass. It was inch perfect. But then, as you say, Colm, his work and experience of going around the defender first and then just poking the ball into the corner. Now the keeper was unlucky, to be fair to him. He did get a hand to it. But,
to be fair, yeah.
But it is a huge goal for Castlehaven. I don't really know, do they deserve to be 9 points to 4 up in terms of the work that Valley Rovers did there for that first half.
Okay, well, we're going to take a little bit of a suspiog and try and find a hot water bottle or something up here in the heights of Páirc Uí Chaoimh in the stand here. So we'll be back in about 5 or 6 minutes time, and we'll have more to chat about then. Okay, welcome back to Porky Queeve. We're starting to get the feeling back into our fingers and our toes after that opening first half, which sees Castlehaven lead 1 goal and 6 points to Valley Rovers 4 points. Is it done and dusted, lads?
No way, you couldn't say it's done and dusted, Colm, but that goal certainly has shed a different complexion on the game. In the fact that Castlehaven would have been very, very worried going in, only 2 points up. 5 points, very, 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 very manageable for Valley Rovers to get themselves back in the game very quickly, and may not even need a goal. But I would be thinking that Castlehaven are going to just leave Michael and Brian Hurley up front. Everyone else is going to be behind the ball, and they're going to make this a war of attrition for 30 minutes. And just if Valley Rovers score a point, Castlehaven will go down and try and score a point to make sure that the 4 or 5 gap that's there at the moment will remain when the final whistle blows.
Okay, so if you're in the Valley Rovers dressing room, then John, how do you plan? How do you counter that then?
Well, look, it's about a little bit of patience. As Brian suggested, we might see Castlehaven pull numbers behind the ball. So not rushing the shooting opportunities, because 2 or 3 wides early can really kind of deflate you and give momentum and impetus and energy to a Castlehaven defence. We would expect, like Brian said, maybe just the 2 hurleys up top and pulling everyone else behind the ball and try and frustrate and delay Valley Rovers, because Valley Rovers aren't known as a free scoring outfit generally. But if Valleys can come out, win a couple of balls, get a couple of chances and put a couple of scores on the board to bring it back to 2-3 points, it makes it far more interesting. Okay,
well, the wind certainly hasn't vanished, neither has the rain here in Porky Queeve. First of our doubleheader, by the way, in the Bon Secours Cork's Premier Senior Football Championship quarterfinals today. The second game at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Patrick Mulcahy will be on commentary duty. He's going to have John here, who will hopefully have not developed hypothermia at that stage, and we will have Noel O'Leary as well too alongside him. So big half an hour ahead here in the Cork Premier Senior Football Championship quarter-final. The question is, can Castlehaven maintain their dominance, or is it going to be a case that Valley Rovers are going to use the weather conditions to their advantage and pull themselves back into this game? And the first chance falling their way is thanks to a free, and would you believe it's the cornerback Adam Walsh-Murphy who's going to take this one off the hands, and he's caught that one a bit too much, gone out, still managed to be kept in. A great play by the cornerback down there, to be Johnny O'Regan. And Castlehaven have it, and they're going to take all the time in the world over there, but great play there by Dara Murphy to dispossess out as far as Kevin Canty on the 45-yard line. Kevin going short, and the shot eventually being taken off and has gone over the bar. It looked to be Dara Murphy who got it off in the end, and that's the start that Valley's wanted.
Yeah, look, that was a very important score to get, because they kicked away a relatively straightforward free. I don't know about you, Brian, but I'm not so sure about having the number 4 kicking the frees at any stage. Look, but I might be wrong in him there. But to actually turn it over then on the way out and get the score is very important.
Jack Walsh doing the donkey work there, looks to have gone out into more a midfield role there at the moment, opting to bring in his corner or wing forward Rory O'Sullivan. It's with Owen Delaney down there. Delaney being held up by 2 men, and from a Castlehaven perspective, they're committing these fouls. Yeah. They've two fouls in a scoring area in 2 minutes.
Yeah, so we're not 2 minutes in yet, Colm, obviously, and you'd have to say that Valley Rovers, are getting out of the game what exactly they want. These type of fouls, I would think the Castlehaven full back line coming to the game, I would, a lot of people may have question marks over their ability to defend one-on-one, and they seem to be panicking a small bit anytime the ball's in the vicinity. The second point I'd like to make, though, is even if Valley Rovers kick the ball wide, Antti Seymour still has to kick it out. And the fact is that in this type of game here, if you can guarantee that you're going to compete on their kick out, and if you get a couple of breaks off it, who knows what could happen.
Billy Crowley kicked the free there, and fine kick by him off the right on that occasion. when it probably would have suited a left-legged kicker. And Seymour's kick out gone straight out over the sideline, and Jack Walsh is the man holding on to the football now. Going short to Dara Murphy. Screams from Billy Crowley inside, but Murphy going his own. Eventually it goes back to bring Crowley into it. It was Jack Walsh running off the shoulder. Still Walsh, and Walsh getting the shot off at the right, and this is some start by Valleys.
Yeah, hell of a start to the second half for Valley Rovers. I think 4 shots at the target, 3 scores, and even the one they missed, they turned it over and scored straight away. So it's a brilliant start for them, and you can see the trouble that Anthony Seymour is having kicking out into this wind. They're trying to cluster in the middle and hit the wings, but it has to be spot on.
Okay, that's a fine kick out there from Seymour. Got good purchase on it, but Jack Walsh getting out under it as well. Out with Rory O'Sullivan on the ball there now. There's options inside him. He's still going himself though. Still Rory O'Sullivan on the 14. Rory O'Sullivan off the left, and Rory O'Sullivan over the crossbar. And that is just bang, bang, bang from a Valley Rovers perspective.
Yeah, they couldn't have asked for a better start. To be fair, I just think in a win like this, even if the ball goes wide, I'll make the point again, it's the pressure on the kick out is the key thing, because the game is open once you win the ball back.
When you've got someone like Mark Collins on your team, he should be the go-to man for a free, and that's him there. That's Chris O'Leary with a huge shoulder onto Collins as he was going down. But you'd expect now Mark Collins really to stand up on these kickouts. Would you go with a different kickout strategy, or do you bring somebody back and go shorter? What would you do, John?
They have to try and work a few short ones, because into that wind, if you don't at least attempt to play it short, the opposition will back off into the spaces where you want to hit it and cut out that option. Mark, that was maybe a little bit lucky to get the free there, but in fairness to Jack Walsh, number 12, he's had a good game all through, and he's on Mark Collins now, so that'll be an interesting battle for the second half and could go a long way to dictating the outcome.
David McCarthy doing ever so well, bringing about 30 yards, bringing the ball forward, and it's Brian Hurley, and that's the man that you need to be getting onto the ball, Brian Hurley. Up there with the other corner forward there, and that's Michael Hurley, and the shot from Michael Hurley has it crept inside. I'm getting the nods from John Hayes.
Yeah, I think you just about gave it just at the last minute. It did come inside the inside post, but if Castlehaven can do this 4 or 5 times in a half, they give themselves a chance. But this is absolutely in the melting pot. But to be fair to Castlehaven, they're quality players of Mark Collins, Brian Hurley, Michael Hurley. They will stand up here.
Yeah, but that was an error there from the goalkeeper, Cormac Desmond, and great play by Jack Cahalan, perfectly positioned, getting a hand onto it and winning the free, which Brian Hurley's going to take so quickly into Michael, holding it up, looking for an angle, looking for something to present itself. He's gone right across there, and free, and the Valley's defenders are holding their hands to their heads and wondering what happened there. Has he changed? He's changed tack. He's waving this way and that. I think the end result is a free in. Yes, it's Brian Hurley who's standing over it, and surely Brian should slot this one over. John?
Yeah, and this will extend the lead out to 3 points again, which will just steady the Castlehaven nerves a little bit. But as neutrals here, it's the ideal start to the second half to see Valleys come out strong and put a few good scores on the board, but then Castlehaven to respond as well. So hopefully this will continue, and we'll be in for an exciting second half.
We've had a more run of scores there in the 6 minutes than we had in the full 30 minutes of the first half.
The game has opened up a small bit, but Valley Rovers don't need to be too smart or complicated matters here at all. They tried to short kick out there with a goal playing with a Gale. They're much better off putting the ball down as far down the field as they possibly can and play off that.
It's Jack Cahalan, I think, is coming all the way out there. He's one of the youngest of the Cahalans, wearing number 14, but is playing in a more advanced role there now to help out. And here they go again. Right here with David McCarthy. Great turn a couple of times we've seen by McCarthy. He's got huge upper body strength as well too, hasn't he? That's Michael Hurley. Hurley hasn't gotten under that properly, but danger still down there. Eventually being taken up by William Hurley. That's the Valley Rovers hurley, but they've lost possession. Conor Driscoll, I think, down there. And so at Castlehaven. Mark Collins now on the ball. It's scored 1-2 in the opening half. Still Mark Collins, great ball inside towards Brian Hurley. Shot by Hurley. Oh, great save by the goalkeeper. Super save. Daisy cutter. Cormac Desmond getting down to it. But again, no surprise, the two men that were combining there. It was like for like.
Yeah, it's still the two Hurleys and Mark that are doing the majority of the attacking for Castlehaven. There was a run along the end line from Mark there, popped it off to Brian, and Brian, as he's kind of made it look like he might have been just going for the point, but snapshot for low and hard for the goal, and almost came off. It was a decent save in the end.
Super save by the goalkeeper Cormac Desmond, because that one was just right along the ground, a daisy cutter, but got his hand to it, knocked it out for a 45, and it's Damien Cahalan who's standing over this one into the wind. Good connection though by Cahalan, but just maybe about a foot to the right and wide, but it was still a powerful strike given the wind that he was facing into. And Cormac Desmond's confidence will definitely be boosted by that save a few seconds ago. Again, interesting to see, will it be a long range effort again by the goalkeeper? Yes, it is. Jack Walsh getting a hand on it, but it's Castlehaven who have, and they're coming back here with Jack Cahalan. Was trying to bring his wing forward into it, but it spilled all the way back as far as Jack, out to Mark Collins. Great run there by David McCarthy. McCarthy's going to have to go backwards to Collins, but Valley's asleep in terms of McCarthy's presence. He had snuck in there, and it's gone all the way back as far as the wing back, David Welton. There's the shot eventually coming off from that far side. Has that gone? Yes, it has gone over the crossbar.
Brian Hurley, to be fair to him, he's actually, Mark Collins to a slightly lesser degree, but Brian Hurley's controlling the game for Castlehaven now. William Hurley did a very good job in the first half, but it just seems to be more space in front of him, and he's getting onto the ball easier, and he looks very, very dangerous.
Yeah, and to be fair to William Hurley on that occasion, he did nothing wrong. It was just it was an outstanding point. But to be fair, I think this is the best football we've seen Brian play in a couple of years as well. So look, a fella who's had as many injuries as he's had, it's good to see him back to something approaching his best form. And there goes my programme.
Here's one I made earlier, John. You'll be delighted to hear we've a spare one here for such emergencies. The wind up here, as I said, causing chaos in terms of match programmes and everything like that, and also causing a bit of chaos from a shooting perspective as well there, as Dara Murphy's shot going wide. It's sailed up a bit too high and sailing wide. 40 minutes gone here. It's Castlehaven 1 goal and 9 points. Mark Collins scoring the goal just before half time, and it's Valley Rovers 8 points, with a run of 4 of those coming just after half time. Castlehaven so calm, cool and composed even when they're playing the ball out of defence, and great ball towards Brian Hurley, who opts to let it run inside him. Was tempting to flick it up the first time but didn't come off for him. Had it at the second go. Still Brian Hurley's gone back as far as Jack Cahalan, and Cahalan opening it out, and Cahalan, that is well, I think you can just read it and weep.
Yeah, to be fair, Damien was very composed at the back coming out with the ball. Those 2 or 3 tacklers, and he just managed to actually waltz his way out. Good kick pass. Brian knew what he was going to do the minute he got the ball. He was never going to take on the shot himself. And great kick from Jack, to be fair. And look, it looks right now, Colm, that Castlehaven really, really are controlling the game. There, you could see even on the longer kick out that I was urging a while ago, that Valley Rovers are, there was 4 of them since I said it, and Castlehaven won 3 of them. So, that hunger and tenacity that Valley's had in the first half seems to be gone. Maybe they're tiring a small bit, I'm not quite sure. these last couple of weeks might be starting to catch up with them. But at the same time, the game is still there for them to actually and have a huge opportunity to try and win it. But at the moment, Castlehaven are using all their experience. Their mainstays are running the game. There's 3 or 4 players running the game, and that's it.
Yeah, and as you said, those long kick-outs Valleys have been failing to regain possession from their own kick-outs. An exception there on that occasion with Kevin Canty getting his hands onto it. It's out with the corner forward, Owen Sweeney there. And that's Sweeney back on the ball there from William Hurley. But the Castlehaven experience very much coming to the fore there, and maybe a bit of inexperience there on that occasion as it went out, kicked too long, and even Fiacre Lynch with all his talents couldn't get onto the end of that one. Interesting to see what Anthony Seymour is going to do now, given the difficulty that he faced in the opening few minutes of the half. Poor kick out as far as Kevin Canty. Chris O'Leary playing a little 1-2. Canty has 2 men for company there and is fouled, and Chris O'Leary dropping it down to the man himself, but Billy Crowley I think is going to come over and going to try his wares from there. As we mentioned, he was the hero against Nemo in that opening day win, defeated by Douglas, and then pumping up that huge score against Carrigaline last day out. A great kick by Crowley, and yes, has found the range and has scored a point. Huge kick by Crowley. Very impressive corner forward, as we were mentioning.
Yeah, that was an impressive kick from Billy Crowley. He does look a good kicker, and it was an important one for Valleys as well, because having started with 4 points in a row, Castlehaven had responded with 4 in a row, and that was just an important one for their morale. I think the ref has given a free from the edge of the D, probably for something said under the new rules. Okay,
Jack Cahalan there, is he going to win the foot race? It's a Valley's centre back William Hurley that's going to get across ahead of him, but Cahalan still fighting his corner. Billy Crowley trying to bring Owen Sweeney into it, but it's going to be a Castlehaven man that's getting out to it. Looks to be Johnny O'Regan, I think. Again, struggling with some of the numbers on the Castlehaven jerseys. That's Conor O'Driscoll, though. We can spot him from his boots. Had a fine point in the opening half when a goal potentially looked on. Great crossfield ball. Oh, that's a fantastic mark, isn't it, lads? And a fantastic kick as well.
Brilliant kick, and a great catch from Michael. But I think Valleys, they're standing off Castlehaven a small bit. Maybe it's the wind, I'm not sure. But they're allowing them with the space that they didn't allow them in the first half. And really, they have 15 minutes to go, and if they want to win this game, they're going to have to ramp up and get back to what they were doing early on.
Michael Hurley with the point there, but yeah, just a fantastic 40-yard kick, and considering a kick into the wind as well too. Hurley just perfectly positioned, tucked it into his chest. Impossible to defend against. 111 to 9 points now, John.
Yeah, and look, just on that 15 minutes, I think we have to be appreciative of some of the scores that were kicked in that 15 as well. There were some superb scores. Michael Hurley, Brian Hurley, Billy Crowley, that last score there with the kick pass in from Damien. I noticed from Damien after that kick and coming out to the sideline, he looks to be struggling a little bit with some sort of an injury.
I think just remember the time he came out of defence there, he took a couple of heavy blows and received a bit of treatment, so I think he's still probably feeling the ill effects of that.
Yeah, and I wonder, look, is it something that do Valleys have someone that can come in and maybe exploit someone who mightn't be 100%? They look like they're gone with Fiacre and Chris O'Leary inside full forward. 2 big-ish guys, but they're not kicking it in. And as well, a kick with that wind has to be 100% accurate. We saw it with the kick pass into Fiacre. It'll just skid out over the end line if you're not spot on. So they've 2 big guys inside there, but they're not necessarily going with the long kick pass. Have the runners to do damage as well.
Conor Cahalan is after going off, and we think it's Andrew Whelton that's after coming in. We'll confirm that in a few moments' time. Whelton was due to start wearing number 12, but Conor Cahalan instead of him. Sub on the Valleys team as well. Rory O'Sullivan Well, Owen O'Reilly, we know all about him from that game against Carrigaline. Scored 3-2 that afternoon, so nice to have that kind of talent coming in off the bench. And Conor Callan gone off, but it's Roland Welton wearing number 6. That's N. So Conor Cahalan gone and Roland Welton N. But interesting to see now what can Owen O'Reilly manufacture in his 15 or 16 minutes here in this final quarter of the Bon Secours Cork Premier SFC quarter final here in Páirc Uí Chaoimh and the Irish Examiner live stream. Don't forget we have another game, the other quarter final. It's Clonakilty in action against Duhallow, and Patrick Mulcahy will be behind the microphone for that, and that's all getting underway at 4 o'clock this afternoon. That's Conor O'Driscoll off over there with the isolated Castlehaven attack now of 2 players inside the Valley Rovers half. You're seeing more and more of the Castlehaven attackers coming down to assist their defenders close out this game here in Páirc Uí Chaoimh against Valley Rovers. Here they come again, and just inside it's Michael Hurley is on the 14-yard line, and beyond that you're looking about 45 yards out before you see another Castlehaven jersey. One of those is Jack Cahalan, scored a fine point a few moments ago, going in as far as Michael Hurley. Defender battling there with him is the wing back Thomas O'Brien, but Hurley still coming off the better. Still Hurley, he's got 2 men for company including O'Brien, and eventually is fouled, and that's kind of the wiliness and the experience really coming to the fore there. Just knew enough to hold on to it quickly enough and win the free. Referee blowing the whistle, the free taken quickly, and a Castlehaven player racing through, but it's going to go back to a specific vantage point.
Yeah, and look, the ball's probably kicked in there 45 seconds ago at this stage. Michael knew that he was on his own, so held the ball up, went, and was hoping that one of them would foul him, because certainly he wasn't probably going to beat the 2 of them. But I would think at Valley Rovers at this stage, they probably need to commit more men forward. They're playing a sweeper. We're just saying there off air that at this stage, you're 5 points down. You've 12 or 13 minutes to go. You have to push on and maybe commit more players even to the full forward line. I've seen people at times with wins like this put 3 and 3 or even 4 inside in the full forward line just to bring the other team back the field and stop the rock coming onto them.
Okay. Brian Hurley's free there, going across the face of the goal. William Hurley collecting it, and Valley's coming out, and Kevin Canty fouled there. So it's a free there just inside their own 65. That's Chris O'Leary on it. O'Leary going right in towards the corner, but too much pace in it yet again to go past Billy Crowley. That's the second or third time they've been caught down there. Rory Maguire is the Castlehaven fullback there on the end line, and Maguire being fouled, and it's going to be a free out. But that's the second or third time, John, we've seen in that corner the delivery into either the corner forward or the full forward there, just carrying a bit too much pace.
Yeah, and look, Valleys have, after a lightning start to the second half, they have fallen away out of this game a little bit. The bigger players for Castlehaven have stood up and made the difference so far. Valley's going to need something in this last 10. The game is still there. The game is absolutely still there to be got at. But do they have something coming off the bench? Number 17, Gary Farrell, is coming into the game now. I think what Brian said about potentially abandoning the sweeper at this stage might be worthwhile as well. They've nothing to gain really at this stage, and being straight about it, he's not actually cutting out a lot of ball that's going in anyway, so I don't think they've anything to lose by bringing him out the pitch.
A couple of subs coming on. Robbie Minahan wearing number 19 is in for Cathal Maguire, and Gary Farrell wearing number 17 has replaced William Hurley wearing number 6. We presume that's an injury because Hurley had been playing very well for Valley Rovers, to be fair. So Gary Farrell in, and it's the new man there, Robbie Minahan. That's him on the ball there for Castlehaven. Going back, bringing in Brian Hurley. He's been here, there and everywhere this afternoon, hasn't he, Brian Hurley?
Yeah, and look, his fingerprints are all over Castlehaven at the moment in terms of, collecting the ball on his own 45, carrying the ball down, having shots. It's a man of the match performance really and it shows his experience. He's been around the block. You know, he's gone through horrific injuries over his career, but he's always had the strength and character to come back. And certainly today he's showing what his club means to him, because he's leading the line really.
You know, absolutely fantastic. 111 to 9 points, and as Brian said, Brian Hurley's fingerprints over so many of those scores this afternoon. Another man that is impressed, this man, the wing back, David McCarthy, bringing in Robbie Minahan. McCarthy offering himself yet again, but they're gone back to Michael Hurley, another cool, calm, composed figure. He's gone right across the field, and Valley's trying to kind of reposition themselves as they can see the clock ticking away there in the background. Castlehaven, all they need to do is just hold on to the ball. They don't even need to get the shot away, but the shot that eventually comes trails wide, and it's going to be a kick out there for Conor Desmond, and really you'd be expecting route one at this stage of the game anyway from him.
Yeah, and look, I wonder, are we seeing the benefits of Castlehaven's freshness, having had a couple of weeks off in between games, versus the hard road and the hard games that Valleys have played? They look to be tiring. Now, you know, that's something that happens when a team gets the upper hand in it. The other team always look tired. Do they have another kick in them for the last 10 minutes? At the moment, you don't see it, but you know, it is close enough that they could get something out of this game.
Jacob O'Driscoll's kick out going right over the sideline, and it's Mark Collins who took the kick, but Jack Allan's hand on the ball there, touching it, so it's eventually finding its way back to Valley Rovers, but intercepted again there by Mark? It wasn't Mark Collins on that occasion. To be Jamie Walsh. They're back in the far side there with is it Michael Hurley again. The other corner forward is Conor O'Driscoll. Oh, lovely little dink pass inside. Shot coming off the goalkeeper's hands and off the crossbar. Great save to deny Hurley. Jack Allan. So patient to build up again. Castlehaven now just going to keep ball, I'd say. David McCarthy on the 45, bringing Mark Collins into it. Bringing his David Welton, and they're going all the way back and setting up again. 53 minutes elapsed here. It's Castlehaven who lead. I want to mention their lady footballers. Castlehaven defeated Douglas in the junior semi-final yesterday, and speaking of ladies, celebration for Valleys winning an intermediate final yesterday, defeating Glanmire, and Johnny Kiley, the cornerback, his sisters Dara and Emer, part of that side that were victorious in the county final. Chris O'Leary. To Jack Walsh. Jack Walsh is on the 21 there now, been forced to go back again as Castlehaven just funneling all the bodies back there, showing all their experience now coming down the straight. Mark Collins. But as far as Robbie Minahan, new man in, he's been on the ball a couple of times. He's got Jack Cahalane inside him if he wants to go that route. Cahalane is still urging forward, and Robbie getting the shot off and over the fingertips of the goalkeeper. And really, I think that passage of play in 30 seconds encapsulates all that's good about Castlehaven football.
Yeah, to be fair to Castlehaven, you know, they played the second half, bar that first 6 or 7 minutes, really, really well. They've upped their game. I think the goal gave them a huge lift before half time. But like you can see from these kickouts, the breaks, they're only going one way. It's Castlehaven all the way. And I just said to John there, Colm, that I don't think Valley Rovers have enough players forward, like if they're going after the game here. You know, they've 3 up maybe maximum, and their turnovers are all happening in around the 45 when they're trying intricate hand passing. Whereas, you know, with a win like this, they have big men. You know, they're 6 points down. Could they not just put somebody at the edge of the square and start moving the ball?
Chris O'Leary, for example, being a substitute coming in, and Keane O'Keefe is in, and Dara Murphy making way. Keane O'Keefe was due to start wearing number 7. He's in now for the final 5 minutes or so. 1-12 now to 9 points. 6-point game. Oh, great little turn there again. And here comes Conor O'Driscoll onto the right. And Conor O'Driscoll should be putting that. Has caught it a bit too much and hooked it back in and got out wide. But again, just show the speed of thought against the wind even that Castlehaven have. Robbie Minahan again, and it's gone out for a sideline. It's Valley's ball on this occasion. Fullback David Lynch not sure where he's going with it. Kevin Canty has it. Kevin Canty being held up by Jamie Walsh, but eventually gets the kick off, and now we're gone route one in, and that's a fine piece of fielding there, and that's everything that Brian Cuthbert was talking about. Jack Walsh getting the ball across to the cornerback there, and that's Adam Walsh-Murphy, and he getting the point. But you just called it.
Yeah, and they were very fortunate there. I think it was 4 Castlehaven defenders to 2 Valley Rovers attackers. I just think with the game, the way it's gone for Valley Rovers, they have nothing to lose by putting in maybe even 2 big men in there and make the ball travel in there and make Castlehaven defend. Because at the moment they're not going to run through Castlehaven the way they're going.
Well, 5 points between the sides, and there's about 5 minutes left, and that's a great piece of fielding there by big Mark Collins, and that's what you want the leaders to stand up there from the kick out, putting David McCarthy on his bike there. McCarthy, lovely ball in by him towards Cahalane. Lovely little pass towards Brian Hurley. Brian Hurley on the volley. Great save by the goalkeeper. Came out, made himself big. Still though, it's Minahan on it. Still Minahan trying to soccer style it in. The shot eventually coming off from Conor O'Driscoll and going wide. But credit to Cormac Desmond, made himself big with Hurley coming in it. But it was a wonderful ball to set him on the way. And it was kind of a comedy of errors then as they were trying to get the ball in. But a let off there for Valley Rovers. 5 minutes or so remaining. 5 points between the sides. Robert Minahan. Up there with the cornerback was Johnny O'Regan. And a free being committed there, no doubt about it, right on the 45-yard line. And surely it's just a case of game management now, really, John, from this stage in.
Yeah, I think what we speculated about there maybe 5-10 minutes ago about Valley's just running out of steam a little bit is coming to fruition. Castlehaven looked the fresher. They managed the last 15 minutes, far better. They did it, probably 3 opportunities for the insurance score there in the last one. Probably should have taken one of those, but I don't see them being caught from here.
Great play between the 2 Hurleys, Brian and Michael, and the end result is a shot from Brian from inside the exclusion zone. Incredibly, he's sent it wide. I think he's having some words with the referee. I don't know, is he claiming there was an infringement there, but anyway, the end result is it has gone wide. 59 minutes now elapsed. There will be some stoppage time. Obviously, we had a host of substitutions. Up they go for it, eventually taken down by Owen Delaney, the corner forward. So with one of the substitutes there, that's Owen O'Reilly. Hasn't really gotten into the game since his introduction, Fiacre Lynch. And that's more AIL kick than GA kick on that occasion. Back out to Robert Minahan. I must say has caught my eye in the 10 or 15 minutes he's been on. And they come out there with Conor O'Driscoll on that far side. Still O'Driscoll has a runner inside him, but O'Driscoll's going to click it off the left and just tap it over. There was a great run being made there by Jamie Walsh, but O'Driscoll just cool, calm, composed, and popped it over.
Yeah, to be fair, Fiacre Lynch made a mistake. The ball went up in the air. Castlehaven got it back, and after that, it's just pure legs. Their legs just seem to be there. Valleys just don't seem to have them, and that's, as John has been saying, that's the way it has been for the last 12 or 13 minutes. Purely Castlehaven up the gears to 4th or 5th gear. Valley Rovers were stuck in 2nd. That's just the way it has been, with a couple of key players for Castlehaven who controlled the game.
Well, speaking of key players, let's talk about this man on the ball here, Brian Hurley. As you said, a joy to watch, John, given all the injuries and everything that he's had over the years.
Yeah, look, and you have to commend them for for that. Brian touched on it earlier that he's been through the ringer a few times with the injury to get back and get fit. He showed flashes with Cork this year, what he could do the early stages in Killarney and in a couple of league games he did very well as well. He's been very good now for Castlehaven in this championship. So hopefully he's someone that Keith Ricken will be looking at as being a leader for Cork next year as well. Mark Collins is showing today as well that there's plenty of life in him, and Michael as well is putting some of his fitness issues behind him, because look, they are, they've been probably a cut above the rest of the players on the pitch today, and they'll be important players for Cork next year as well, you would imagine.
And as we said, the interplay between Brian and Mark Collins in particular, an absolute joy to behold. Substitutes coming thick and fast for the two teams. Valley Rovers have a substitute in. It's James McCarthy is replacing Fiachra Lynch, and I think we have two subs as well too on the Castlehaven side. I think Jack Cahalan is one of the players that's coming off, and we'll get confirmation on that in a few moments time. That'll just add an extra few seconds to the clock here, but really at this stage no doubt in the outcome. The only question is what the final score will be. We talked about Brian Hurley's class a few seconds ago. He's just illustrated it there off the right hand nonchalant kick, and it's pushed it out there to 114 to 10 points as we're entering the last 60 seconds or so.
Yeah, and look, Valleys do look very, very tired. I know we're labouring that point, but Brian has been superb. He really, really has. Going forward, you'd have to think that, whoever, I'm not sure who they're playing next, but if you're playing Castlehaven, then, you know what's facing you before you get there, because it's the two lads inside, and Mark Collins really have been the mainstays today and are the mainstays of the team. And, really Valleys did a very, very good job in quieting them in the first half. And you'd expect against the wind, the job might be slightly easier, but it's actually proven to be far more difficult. And you'd have to hand it to Castlehaven. They really, really are a step above Valleys, judging on this performance. And, going into the latter stage of the championship, they have to be, up there as probably the favourites.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you that. Would you still have them as the number one ranked team now in the county? I
have. Look, I going back to the Bars and Castlehaven game last year, I would have felt that the Bars were far over Castlehaven, but Castlehaven just dug it out in the night. If you remember back, Colm, Castlehaven got opportunity, got forward and just scored. The Bars had the ball for the whole game and didn't. I would say, to me, it's between the Bars and Castlehaven really. And looking at the Bars for the last 10 minutes on Friday night, if they can reproduce that, and Ian Maguire has that type of influence on games going forward, I think it's going to be a close run thing between the Bars and Haven in my head anyway. Okay,
well, that's the final whistle confirmation, the final score here in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, 1 goal and 14 points to 10 points. As you said, I think you mentioned it there, John, the tiredness really, it did all catch up in Valleys coming down the last 15 minutes or thereabouts. A special delivery there from Noel O'Leary as we're talking there. Is it a nice Kilnamatra hat there for John Hayes? Tis a pity we don't have our other commentator cam on this afternoon. We might put a picture up on Twitter there for John and for Noel. But the tiredness really caught Valleys in that last 15 minutes as well.
Yeah, tiredness, and look, they kind of ran out of ideas after a blistering start to the second half. They ran out of ideas. They had Fiachra and Chris O'Leary inside and full forward for a long time, but never really hit them, so they also didn't get an awful lot from their bench, so they needed something to kick on in the last 15 minutes to come in fairness to Owen O'Reilly. He came in, he won a good mark and set up a score and looked lively, but other than that they really didn't get an impact from their bench. And look, I think it's what Brian said there ago, Castlehaven just upped it a gear or two in the second half, and last 15 minutes controlled the game, and their experience showed out.
Okay, well, you can see them, they're still out on the field, they're having a bit of a group chat. And another man I suppose we should mention as well too, Damien Cahalan, a couple of times when the Valley Rovers resurgence was coming there, he kind of nipped it in the bud then after about 5-10 minutes of the second half.
He did, to be fair to me. He's a very experienced player as well. any player who can play full back in an inter-county hurling team for 10 years, against top class opposition and survive, you will survive in a club football championship based on those experiences alone. But Damien adds even more than that. He's a beautiful kicker of the ball, as we saw. He's experienced, he can cover ground, he's quick, and I think the big thing for him is that, all along in his career, he's been, at club level. The Bars can be playing hurling, then the Haven play football. He's playing football or hurling with Cork. It's very difficult, I would imagine, to actually get enough time to get very good at playing football. But today, in that second half, he marshalled his defence very, very well, came out with ball, and he looks a quality player. And to be fair, he's coming up to 30, I'd say he's nearly 30 now, actually, I would think. And I think at that stage of your career, that experience counts for everything, especially on days like this. You're against the gale of wind, your positioning is crucial. The ball seemed to land where he was a lot in that second half. And he has the football to come out with it, and he did very, very well.
Okay, very, very quick word, because Brian, we're leaving about the next game this afternoon.
Yeah, I haven't seen either of them play live, right? But I would say Clan at times have flattered to deceive, it would be fair to say, in the championship. They've had some very, very good performances. I know it was a dead ringer against the Bars, and they didn't seem to perform in that game. But I would think that the man in charge of them, Hawley, is a very, very shrewd operator. He knows the game inside out. He seems to be involved with Clan. When they are successful, he brings success to the team. I know for the last number of years, work commitments and that, he couldn't do it, and now he's back with them. I think he brings that X factor for Clan, and I think days like today are made for what he brings to the party. And I would be surprised if Clan don't go out and actually put a performance in here and actually win the game.
Okay, well, you can watch all that game live and uninterrupted in our live stream. The Bon Secours Cork Premier Senior Football Championship quarter-final, 4 o'clock, that's getting underway. Clonakently against Duhallow. Brian and myself are heading away for I'd say a sauna at this stage.
Not together, Colm, not together.
John's penance for something in her previous life is Patrick Mulcahy and Noel O'Leary. They're going to be getting underway in about 10 or 15 minutes time. We'll be handing over, setting up a second stream on that one. But we're going to have to leave it here. It's Castlehaven who progress into the semi-finals of the Bon Secours Cork Premier Senior Football Championship. And disappointment for Valley Rovers, but there's still hurling for them to look forward to. A Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship semi-final against near neighbours and rivals, Courtesy Rovers, coming fast down the tracks. So that is where we leave it for this afternoon. From the cold and the rain and the cold, let me mention it again, it is that cold up here in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Hopefully you've enjoyed the match in front of a nice warm fire, and you're looking forward to the next game getting underway. The coverage getting underway in about 10 or 15 minutes time with Patrick and their crew. So from all of us here, enjoy the rest of your I was going to say bank holiday weekend, but of your Halloween night weekend, and hopefully trick-or-treating goes well for all concerned. From all of us here, goodbye and thank you.